1990, the brothers Hawk bought this facility from the New Jersey Zinc Company. New Jersey Zinc actually had a zinc mine here from 1848 to 1986. Now this is New Jersey, a zinc mine in New Jersey. How did they do it? Anybody have any idea? What? Okay, all right, I'm gonna take over then. All right, Mother Nature gave us an ore body to end all ore bodies. A mine is placed where the ore is. It's not a 7-Eleven or a Starbucks. You don't build it where you want it. If the ore is there, you put the mine there. When they started digging into this ore body, boy did they find zinc. You see that car there? That mine car or ore car holds 2 tons of ore. Behind me on that column, when you get a chance, is a 500-pound ingot of zinc. For every 2 tons of ore, they got 2 500 pounds of ingots of zinc. That is a bonanza to end all bonanzas. It allowed New Jersey Zinc to pay New Jersey salaries to their miners and allow them to pay taxes to the town of Ogdensburg until the price of zinc collapsed in 1986 because of a really big find in South America. Once the price of zinc collapsed, the town said, hey, let's ask more taxes. And the New Jersey Zinc said, all right, we're done. So they closed up, declared bankruptcy, and moved on. The building you're in started out its life as the Miners' Change House. This is the last Miners' Change House built just before Great World War II. 500 miners a day would work in the mine. They would start and end each day in the display of natural fluorescent minerals from around the world and uses of fluorescence in our day-to-day life. Now let's start off with science class. Fluorescence. Anybody have any clue what fluorescence is? Anybody? Sorry.
It's the excitement of electrons.
Absolutely. So we have a scientist here. Okay.
Go, Larry, go.
We know about that exists in nature is the atom. Protons, neutrons, electrons. When the metals were pumped out of the earth from that fault at the beginning, in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, those metals were hot. The outer electrons were so energized that they were no longer in their orbits. Once the metals cooled down, those orbits were left empty. What happens now is, with a particular wavelength of light or energy, we excite the other electrons. Those electrons absorb that photon, and they have more energy. They now can jump up to that orbit that is empty. When it gets to that orbit, it can decay a little bit, but then it very quickly drops back down to its ground state, or the orbit it came from. When it drops back down, it has to emit energy. That energy comes off as a photon. Because the process is not efficient at 100%, the photon that comes off has less energy, has a longer wavelength than the UV photon it absorbed. So I'm going to turn off the room lights, which are fluorescent, turn on the UV lights. You can explore natural fluorescence, man-made fluorescence. We're going to talk about man-made fluorescence after this. I want to warn you that looking at UV lights with your eyes is not a good idea. Okay, so look, you can look at your hand, you can look at your hands, you can look at your teeth, you can look at the rocks, but not with your eyes. Right? And if you want to take pictures of fluorescence, don't use flash. Your camera is more sensitive to fluorescence than your eye is. Now, if you look at the sample in front of you, the green willemite and the red calcite, that was remnants of an excavation from the Museum of Natural History last year. They have an 18-foot by 9-foot by 1-foot slab that's going to be in the museum in Manhattan next this fall under the new fluorescence exhibit. So we get the scraps. Now, if you smile, under the UV light, your teeth will fluoresce. But they fluoresce because your toothpaste has phosphate. They want your So, what did you see in our modern world that fluoresces?
Quite easy.
Okay, I'm going to start out with these. These are called fluorescent lights for a reason. There's a UV source in the middle of that tube, a black light, that's exciting the phosphor that coats the inside of the glass. The phosphors are engineered to fluoresce all the colors, so they're white. Okay? What's the next example of fluorescence you saw? I think you saw something. Our currency, our secure documents, our credit cards, our driver's licenses, our passports, our stock certificates, our stamps are all designed with secret fluorescent strips that cannot be photocopied. Photocopiers have gotten so good that counterfeiting would be rampant without fluorescent security strips. Anything else you discovered? I saw people holding their hands and looking at their teeth under the fluorescent light. Remember in the museum, somebody said they brushed their teeth, and I said, you can't escape zinc. Zinc phosphate is put in your toothpaste, so your teeth are whiter. It's designed that way. Phosphates are put in your detergent, so your skin is whiter. Phosphate you put in your clothes detergents, so your clothes are brighter. Some cloth is actually designed with fluorescent dyes in it, so they're brighter, so they look nicer.
Are phosphates bad, though, for the environment?
Phosphates are bad for the environment. They cause pollution in water bodies, yes. Okay, but you don't let it into a water body. The biggest problem with phosphate in the environment is fertilizer. People using fertilizer indiscriminately in drainage areas that allows a lot of growth in water bodies. Obviously, fertilizer grows organic things, whether it's on the lawn or in a water body. You want to keep it away from a water body because the weeds will take over, choke out the oxygen. All right, what else did you find that fluoresces in this museum? Okay. The rocks, yeah. I saw my fingernails fluorescing. Why would your fingernails fluoresce? What did we learn in the previous museum? We take zinc to preserve our immune system. That's a good indication that you have a good amount of zinc in your bloodstream, the fluorescence. The fluorescence you saw on your skin was probably the soap that you didn't wash off this morning. Okay, any other examples of fluorescence? The most important for the school kids is high visibility signs and uniforms. School areas, police, firemen, fire trucks, police vehicles all use fluorescent paint in their signage and their uniforms, so that both under daylight and under headlights, they return more light and they're very attractive, so you see them quick. Okay, let's all head to the mine and we begin our mine tour. Aware that not all the good ideas come at the same time. Some take longer to arrive. All right, so Simon Ingersoll has given the miners a tool to come into the mountain. That's the only tool they were given. When they come into the mountain, they're bringing light in the form of candles. So they're using a rock drill with a candle on their helmet. They're given 5 candles for their shift, and when the last candle is half burned out, it's time to go home. All right? Who was up here in 1890 looking for iron? You learned about him in the first museum. Edison. Edison, the miner, came up here and saw miners with candles. That didn't work for Thomas Edison. Thomas Edison had ideas in his head continuously. Some were good ideas, some were bad ideas. One of his good ideas was the electric light bulb. One of his other good ideas was DC power. Thomas Edison was the inventor of DC power. DC was the thing that drove his machinery. His dynamos were DC, his current was DC. One of his co-workers had a better idea. He took that better idea, left Edison, got together with Westinghouse, and you probably know this guy because he has a car company named after him now. His name was Nikola Tesla. Our world runs on AC. Our world runs on AC because AC could be stepped up in voltage to reduce the current to transmit at great distances. DC, you couldn't do it at the time. Technology might prove me wrong in 10 or 20 years. We might be looking at something different. But Thomas Edison's DC and electric light gave him the knowledge and the tools to make the miners' lives better. He took a battery and his DC and his electric light and took away the candles in the mine. The miners now had a power source that they would recharge at the end of each day on those racks. This power source could last 10 to 12 hours. They would clip this lamp on their helmet and they would take their light with them wherever they went. The lamp had 2 filaments in it. Reason for 2 filaments, very obvious. Anybody know how long the original light bulbs lasted in the 1890s? 3 days. So between banging around and the fact that it would burn out in 70 to 80 hours, you had to have a backup filament. And Thomas built a switch into it so the miner could throw the switch and go to the backup filament. All right, so now we're in the mine. We have lighting thanks to Thomas Edison.
But how about carbide?
Excuse me?
Carbide.
Carbide was used with a flame, but it was still open flame.
Okay.
Okay, carbide was used, but most of the miners in this area had candles.
Okay.
Okay? Now we have lighting in the mine. What would be the next important thing you want certainty of when you're working in a mine?
Yes.
Absolutely. The problem was so bad in the 1800s in England, in the coal mines, that the Crown commissioned the scientific body to invent a detector for methane. They were losing 7,000 miners a year in British coal mines because of explosions. Humphrey Davy came up with this idea. He took oil in a sealed chamber with a controlled emission of gas and made a detector. The flame would burn yellow if the air in the mine was good to support combustion. Anybody have a gas stove at home? What color is the flame?
Blue.
Blue. If the flame in this turned blue, in a coal mine, you know you found a methane seam. You brought a source of ignition down in your carbide lamp or your cap lamp. You better ignite it, you better extinguish it and get out, or you'll get an explosion. If the flame were to go out, you know you didn't have enough oxygen to support combustion or a life. All right, so what would the miner do if that would occur? The miner also took down with him this device called a self-rescuer. It's very small. We're in a metal mine. The chances of carbon monoxide in a metal mine are very small, but we take it with us nonetheless. If we need to use it, there's oxygen attached to metal in here, metal oxide, that once carbon monoxide activates it, it turns to carbon dioxide with excess oxygen. That can be breathed. One of the side effects of the process is it gets really hot, 300 degrees. So the miners would be breathing 300-degree air, burning their lungs and lips, but getting out of the mine. Okay? I know it sounds counterintuitive, but the canary came after this mine. Once Thomas Edison took flame out of the mine, the other mining engineers said, we're going to take fire out of the mine completely, including the Davy light. The biologists in the early 1900s had observed a phenomenon that they called the sentinel species. The sentinel species were various animals that had properties that were greater than ours. You know, a dog has a much better olfactory sense than we do. The canary had something that the miners needed. It metabolized oxygen much faster than they did, about 10 times as fast, 200 breaths a minute, so that if there was anything in the mine that the miners needed to worry about, the canary would detect it first. So if the canary was singing happily on its perch, everything was fine, in the dark. So if the canary lost consciousness, stopped singing, and passed out, you knew there was not enough air in the mine to support the canary. You still had enough air, but you needed to get out of the mine. So now the sentinel species is still used today. We use it all over. You might not know it. The Japanese have a really good sentinel species called a cat that is fed fish. The purpose of that cat is to find mercury in the food system. If mercury is present, the cat starts dancing. I'm not kidding. That's what the Japanese do. Okay, now we're in the mine. We have light. We know the air is good. What's the next important thing? This is a question for the kids. When you leave the house, do you just walk out the door? What happens? What do you do? Okay, well, let's start again. Somebody's at the kitchen table enjoying breakfast. When you leave the house, do you lock the door or do you let that someone know you're heading out? Or do you at least send them a text? All right, so you probably appreciate that. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do. My shift boss has assigned me a level. He knows where he sent me, and I need to keep him informed. He's not going to walk this mine and look for me. This mine has probably 20 levels, and each level is over 2 miles long. There's 35 miles of tunnels in this mine. So I'm going to brass out, or tag out. And at the end of my shift, I'm going to come up here with my lant and my self-rescuer, return my lantern to the charging station, return my self-rescuer, and put my tag back on the board. So my shift boss knows he's out of the mine. At the end of the day, the shift boss is going to check the tag board. If there's any missing tags, he's going to send miners looking for you. This is a dangerous job. There's a lot of things that can go wrong. It's a metal mine, it's very safe, but mistakes happen. Okay. If I didn't have an accident in the mine, and I was a miner who just wanted to go home and not tag out, my boss would send another miner to my house. If they found me at home without tagging out, what do you think would happen? No. Miners are a tough breed and they're hard to come by. He'd give me the worst possible job in the mine. When I say the worst, I mean the worst. So if you think about your life at home, what's the worst job that you would never want to do in the mine? Or at home? Clean the toilets. This is a mine. We have 20 levels from here down to 2,500 feet. There's no running water. There's dripping water. But you're going to have to use a facility. There's no facility anywhere in this mine. So you're going to have toilets at every level. And the miner who didn't tag back in is going to clean those toilets until the next miner makes a mistake. And I'm guessing it might take a couple of months. So it's a job you probably don't want to have, so you're going to tag back in. All right, Daniel, let's go to the next step.
45 caliber long.
When John and Freddie took our fires, I thought I would stop the brand sheep. I stopped the gunfire's roots. John did kill one of them, but her gently got away. Since that day, John's bitterness and heartbreak has driven him to spend every moment when he is not caring for our son, tracking down Earl Gentry. 10 long years. And only 2 years before, John Rodney West has cried. Out of me is terrible West at sea. But we were happy, John. Remember the night we couldn't find that over. You had not been kept in this room. Hips stand so straight and proud, like you used to, John. My John gets happy to go on that running and bring the rail to town once a year to sell it to Glen Walker. You had a hard bargain, John West. Marshall John West. I never did have a chance to tell you how proud I was to be a brave Marshall's wife, to be Brown West. And you would call me my gal Sal. John, you cling to him so closely? Someday he'll want a wife. And he'll want to laugh. You two will never laugh. But he'll want to hold his own. Not a blanket under the stars. After they were been for tears with him all night. Look at Gypsy. You wait till his parents get you a haircut when he comes out. Oh, how I wish I told you. Tell you
There you go, Barry Ball.
Oh, why did John leave the sack with Kim?
45 caliber one.
That's upsetting.
And they just stand there waiting for the gunman, the lawman to get them? Oh.
What? That was.
Gotta watch who you mess with.
It's like Newark, a lot of lead poisoning.
Yeah.
And she just sweeps on.
Just another
Yeah,
day
it's
in the
all right.
West. Here's the horses.
Both his wife and his son.
Somebody's
The
holding it.
horses didn't get hurt.
Yeah. I think we're the only tourists. Everybody else is staff.
No, they got people over there.
Oh, well, okay.
and
All
over
right.
there.
All right. But those are staff.
No, they're
Tourists. They're tourists? Okay.
some of them. One isn't, but the other two are.
Oh, okay.
Anybody with that much courage deserves an even break. I never regretted backing down.
Nice to have the ball.
Alright, I thought you hated horses now.
I do. They scare me. You have all strings now.
Some days, brothers only agree.
Me too.
He was definitely a mission by himself. Some days, the national streets hired him from south of the border. He carried out each ceremony and deadly careless. He caravans of family and ancestors. Some days, kid pushed around to be facing the
Away from the city.
riders, hobbies, and town. But some days, kid himself. Girls were Mr. Thunder's magic.
It's a state.
They're both sitting across the street. Yeah, the neck of himself. They're tall in the saddle. That's the song dance kid.
Kind of low, ain't you? Take the good look while you're still able. One moment, my friend. Do not be hasty. You will have a drink with me. I never refuse to drink at a time like this. Napoleon went by Rose a line break for a drink. His pocket some days out of the salute. Absolute friend of mine, and wife's brother, Virgil, sent from the marshal's office. As they come from the horse ride, suddenly goes aware of something amiss. Rushes to the back of the porch. Flash of a little strawberry. Hey, brother, never remember the kiss again. Yes, it has betrayed the strategy against Doc Holliday.
Wasn't fireworks.
Dennis was alive. And then he lost. Holliday is far too arrogant and people with 6 rounds. Trust anything a chance. But how many? All the rooftops.
These horses have got used to
You and me, senor. They're very much alike. They're hard for some days, say. Just for the right time. See, you are right, Olivia. Please, do not get hot.
hanging up on each other. It's a fair fight.
Gentlemen, amigo, making a mistake is made. Yes, you did. Up your arms. Finish what you need. I think you mean what you say. Yes, you're very much alive.
How do we manage to be that close but not doing
Not for the horses.
it? Yeah.
Well, she only says that because she puts all the rounds in the target.
I know someday it's wet.
What a job. We get to sleep on the job.
Must be a back door.
Yeah, right.
There's one show between Pony Express and then they have great.
Pony Express coming. Pony Express.
In 1860, $5 now, so you can send my money from St. Joseph, Missouri to California by way of Pony Express. Horses and riders are the hardiest that can be found. Way stations are set up every 10 miles where the riders change horses. We try to road 75 to 100 miles, making a round trip twice a week. They face all kinds of dangers in the wilderness, such as Indians, wild animals, weather. Also, Bill Cody and Bill Hickok are Pony Express riders. It's only 25 pounds. Who once got 380 miles to country swirling with Indians on a warpath. I'd say that was worth $5 an ounce, wouldn't you? Hands up, here he comes. Pony Express riders dropping in at the Wild West Nyack station. The exchange horses will be confident. If you have mail any cards or souvenirs, you have to take the first out of the journey by way of Wild West City Pony Express.
We've been paying since October. All right. Good job.
The Can-Can Girls of Wild West City.
Yay.
Let's give a big round of applause.
Yay.
All right, ladies and gentlemen.
Vegan pants, it's out too. All right.
Good job.
The Can Girls of Wild West City. Let's give them a big round of applause. All right, ladies and gentlemen, cowboys and cowgirls, the attention is going to shift back.
Larry's Store. That's how they renamed the store.
You got black hats, they're no good.
Falls against Clanner. Get out of here, Roy Grant Thompson, taking the shotgun from Bill and shoving him towards his horse tied by the Mustang Hotel. Ben swings the shotgun at the town as Bill makes his escape.
See how easy it is to gallop?
Deputy Run runs up the street from the sheriff's office, but Ben means business. The deputy jumps down beside Ryder as Mayor Miller comes.
Probably more crowded than this room. Probably smelled worse than this room. But nothing hurt. Everything was wonderful. That's where you're going to go right now.
Thank you very much, Joe. I appreciate that. How about it for the West Nyack Library for having these wonderful programs, folks? And even having us. All right, well, how many of you guys were actually at Woodstock? Anybody? Okay, that's pretty good. All right, I was wondering. All right, well, we have stories, and we got stories, but we also have quite a bit of music for you, so we'd like you to all form a giant love circle and get together. Some you might not even realize, because when the movie came out, only certain bands made the cut. And it wasn't until a second and third version of the movie came out, and then they finally printed rosters of all the people. So we're trying to cover as much as we can in this short time. One of the performers, Arlo Guthrie. Now, we didn't have time to do Alice's Restaurant because we don't have 5 hours. That's enough of that. But we do have time for this great song, which is a sweeping view of Americana.
Train name New Orleans, maybe?
We'd like to do it right now. Something by Arlo Guthrie. Who appeared in Woodstock. I think, what did he do? He did Coming into Los Angeles. Coming into Los Angeles. Bringing in a couple of keys, if you know what that is. Riding on city of New Orleans.
Yes, I got it.
In North Central, Monday morning rain. 15 cars, 15 restless riders, 3 conductors, and 25 sacks of mail. All along the sundown sea, the train goes out the Kankakee and rolls along past houses, moms and bees. Trains that have no name, graveyards full of old red men, and the graveyards of the rusted automobiles. You know what's coming, come on. Good morning, America, how are you? I said, well, don't you know how you made it sound? I'm the train, city of New Orleans. I'll be gone. Oh, you can feel the winds running the floor, and all the sons of the proletarians and the sons of the engineers ride their father's magic carpet made of steel. The birds with their babes asleep, rocking to that gentle beat, and the rhythm of the rails is all they feel. It's a good morning, there's good night. I say, well, don't you worry, I'll be waiting, son. I'm the train to come, the city of the water. I'll be gone by 100 miles when the day is done. The day's almost done. Well, it's night time on the city of New Orleans. Changing cars in Memphis, Tennessee. Halfway home, you know we'll be there by morning. Through the Mississippi darkness, rolling out to the sea. Yeah, but all the towns and the people see are two fade into one bad dream, and the still thing still ain't overdue. Conductor sings his songs again. The passengers will please refrain. This train's got the disappearing railroad blues. Good night now. Good night, America. So don't you know I'll be waiting, son. I'm the train from the city of New Orleans. I'll be gone by 100 miles when the day is done. Well, I'm the train from the city of New Orleans. I'll be gone by 100 miles when the day is done. Okay, both rooms, you're going to raise Joe a little. I'll raise your guitar and I'll see your bass. Tell 'em I'm going, my love is away. not easy to do. I hope you did an okay job of it.
Now I know why he contorted himself. He even hit the scream. I love it.
Yeah, that was great. The screen. I'm going to applaud the screen on its own. Come on. Also, want to remind you kids that as the mailing list comes around, if you're not on it, don't give us a street address. Give us. Do they have email in West Nyack yet? Joanne, do they have that in here yet? Oh, just checking. All right. The war movement abounded and was afoot in those days. Anti-war sentiment, pretty much. Oh, look at this. Now, Bobby brought a very special piece of artillery. He's an armadillo. He's from Armadillo, Texas.
Stole that from Comic-Con.
Let me tune this thing up. So anyway, we're going to do a slightly modified version of the fish cheer, all right? You want to lead him, Mikey?
Yeah. Everybody remembers that, right? Yeah. Give me an F. Yeah. Give me a U. U. Give me an N. What's that spell? All right, we're just going to have some fun this time.
All right. Are you ready, kids? Wait a minute. Special artillery here.
Come on, you big strong man. Up in sand, need your help again. Got himself in a heck of a jam. Hanging out yonder, seeing it now. You put down your books, pick up your guns. Gonna have a whole lot of fun. It's 1, 2, 3, what we fighting for? Don't get me out, don't give a damn. Next stop is Vietnam. And it's 5, 6, 7, open up the pearly gate. Well, come on, General, let's move back. Your big chances coming last. Go out, get those ready. Everyone knows you're gonna get dead. No peace can only be won. If you blow off, get the gun. And it's 1, 2, 3. What are we fighting for? Don't tell me I don't give a damn. Next stop is Vietnam. And it's 5, 6, 7. Open up the pearly gate. Well, there's no time to wonder why. I'm gonna die. Well, come on, run throughout the land, like the doors of the Vietnam. Come on, brothers, don't hesitate. Take this stuff across before it's too late. He's the first one on the block. Yeah, boy, come home the box. And it's 1, 2, 3. What we fighting for? Don't tell me I don't give a damn. Next stop is Vietnam. And it's 5, 6, 7. Open up the pearly gate. Well, now there ain't no time to wonder why. I'm gonna die.
All right, a little rubber Bobby in his many colors. There we go.
Country Mike Garanya.
Yeah, there he is. So for those of you who didn't remember, Country Joe and the Fish had a very slightly different, version of the cheer. So we figured we'd decoy you a little bit. All right. What else was going on in Woodstock here?
Well,
It was a mix of cultures too, right?
this was, I remember when these guys came in on stage. It was like, oh my God, the lights and the outfits and everything else was just
It was great in the video.
unbelievable.
And they were on for how long? A couple of hours.
Yeah, they
had a long set.
They must have played like 20 songs.
And Music Lover was 10 of those 20 songs.
Yes.
We're talking about Sly and the Family Stone, kids. You ready? 1, 2, 3.
Sometimes it's right, but I can't be wrong. My own beliefs are in my song. Just pick up the drummer and band. Makes no difference what through my band.
We love you.
Buenos Ricanos.
And now it's one of the library ladies.